Perhaps the most exciting thing to see while I was on break was the new Argentinian president, Javier Milei, stand up and defend capitalism to the socialist-leaning annual control freak elite festival, the World Economic Forum. The WEF is an organisation that's set up to meddle in all sorts of things, led by the greatest self-righteous control freak on the planet, Klaus Schwab. The WEF runs seminars and committees and support programs all around the world all year, funded to the tune of tens of millions of dollars by corporations and governments. This culminates in one really big conference every January in the ski resort of Davos, Switzerland, which typically brings together about 1,500 of the world's top corporate leaders and 1,500 of the world's leading politicians and bureaucrats to, quote, share ideas. The problem is those ideas tend to involve more regulation, more government intervention, and more control by the 3,000 people in the little club. It all sounds lovely, but it's become an industry in its own right. And intervention by government is almost always not the best way to solve problems. So it was really something when the newly elected libertarian president of Argentina, Javier Milei, got up to speak. His is a country whose economy had been utterly destroyed by socialism and whose people have been plummeted from riches and wealth in the mid-20th century into poverty and despair and 90% inflation today by well-meaning socialist policies. The people have finally had enough, and they've elected Milei to try to undo the mess. Milei pulls no punches. He campaigned wielding chainsaws as a stunt, symbolising his approach to government, but there should be much less of it. My favourite image is this one. Milei and Klaus Schwab striding out on stage together, Schwab having no idea of the scolding that he and all the bureaucrats and technocrats in that room were about to cop.
It's for me a great honor to welcome Javier Milei.
Today, I'm here to tell you that the Western world is in danger. And it is endangered because those who are supposed to have to defend the values of the West are co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism and thereby to poverty. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-meaning individuals willing to help others, and others motivated by the wish to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world. Rather, they are the root cause.
Ouch. Collectivism, socialism, is the root cause of the problems in this world, never the solution. That is not a song you hear sung anymore. So loud are the voices of the institutions and corporations and governments who all profit from the interventionist, collectivist model. We know best. We have the solution. You must do as we say those who have often never had to test whether their ideas bring any value at all in the free market, or who can compete and be economically sustainable.
When you look at per capita GDP since the year 1800 and until today, what you will see is that after the Industrial Revolution, global per capita GDP multiplied by over 15 times, which meant a boom in growth that lifted 90% of the global population out of poverty. We should remember that by the year 1800, about 95% of the world's population lived in extreme poverty, and that figure dropped to 5% by the year 2020, prior to the pandemic. The conclusion is obvious. Far from being the cause of our problems, free trade capitalism as an economic system is the only instrument we have to end hunger, poverty, and extreme poverty across our planet.
That is the truth, folks, but you will never hear it on our ABC or reported in our mainstream media. All they care about is fairness and equity. They hate the rich more than they love the poor. They only care about the gap between rich and poor. But the gap doesn't matter if the poor are getting richer. And they have been, massively, all over the world since the 1800s. But all the control freaks want to focus on is the gap, the inequality. instead of the important thing, which is whether the poor are getting richer. Why is that? Envy? Power? Control? Remember, Davos isn't full of innovative, inspirational, rebel entrepreneurs who add value and change the world. Oh, there's a few of them there, maybe. But mostly it's filled with big corporate bureaucrats and big government bureaucrats. People whose big fat salaries depend on taking and spending the money of other people.
The empirical evidence is unquestionable. Therefore, since there is no doubt that free enterprise capitalism is superior in productive terms, the left-wing doxer has attacked capitalism, alleging matters of morality, saying, that's what the detractors claim, that it's unjust. They say that capitalism is evil because it's individualistic and that collectivism is good because it's altruistic, of course, with the money of others. So they therefore advocate for social justice. But this concept, which in the developed world became fashionable in recent times, in my country has been a constant in political discourse for over 80 years. The problem is that social justice is not just, and it doesn't contribute either to the general well-being. Quite on the contrary, it's an intrinsically unfair idea because it's violent. It's unjust because the state is financed through tax, and taxes are collected coercively.
Javier Milei telling it like it is at the World Economic Forum a few weeks ago. Obviously can't play you the whole speech, but it's one not to be missed. So do Google it after today's show and check it out if you haven't seen it in full yet.